moving on then to the Arkle, another Grade 1. Again, won by some brilliant horses over the year. Footpad, Altior, Duvan. We talked there just briefly there about Shishkin. He's the market favourite. Brian, do you think that's deserved?
Yeah, I think it's probably deserved because it's a race that novice hurdlers have great form in. Like previous seasons, novice hurdlers have very, very good form when they go to this Arkle. He probably is deserved favourite because of he's ran more times and he's been good. But will he win the race is my big question. I mean, this is probably the most debated race of the day here, I suppose, starting off. I think there's way more depth and scope to this race than there is to any of the other ones. You could make a case for any of the top three in the market in this one. I mean, you could talk about this all day. Like, he probably is a deserving favourite. He was a gutsy winner of the Supreme last year, and that course form is absolutely vital when it comes to these festivals. Like, I mean, it's huge. Only one of the last 14 winners of the Arkle had never ran at Cheltenham before, and that was under So, like, that probably speaks good things for Energumene. But I mean, I don't know. Like, you mean, Shishkin's an absolutely exceptional jumper. He's he's very slick over his fences. He's a proper 2-mile chaser. Energumene is the French translation for fanatic, and I mean, this guy is like, you can be a fanatic about this fella. Like, I mean, what's not to like about him? His Dublin Racing Festival performance is probably the most impressive of the whole weekend. He actually won his race in a faster time than Shakan Poursois won it in the race beforehand, and he's a 4-6 shot for the Champion Chase. Like, I mean, the way that Paul Townend rode him that day, the way that he brought about him was absolutely amazing. His jumping was just, he just stood, the way he approached his fences, he was like a Giselle jump with them. It was a joy to watch. You'd swear he wasn't a novice. And I mean, you go into his form and you think that a novice hurdle win at Gorham Park doesn't read into too much. And I mean, that's probably why he wasn't seen at the start of the season. That's probably people didn't wrote him off. But I mean, I was completely taken by that, and I think the Grade 1 form is vital. Where Shishkin has only ran Shishkin has ran in 2 Grade 2s. Now, I'm not saying that there's no depth to them. I mean, like, he's been very good, but I mean, he's only ran in 4 runner fields, 5 runner fields against horses that have won maybe listed races beforehand, and it's hard to argue whether his form is good enough. He is good enough to win the race. Don't get me wrong. I wouldn't be backing him at 10 to 11. I think that he should be probably 11 to 10 as opposed to 10 to 11 and let it be a proper market shootout. But I mean, you could make a case as well for All Mankind. He won the Scilly Isles at Sandown. He ran away with a race at Warwick on Monday. He was very impressive. Like, you could talk about this race all day. I think it's probably the most competitive race of the day. I think, like, Mullins has won in the last 11 winners have been shared between Willie Mullins, Nicky Henderson, and Henry de Bromhead have won 9 out of the last 11. So I think that, like, the 2 market leaders, the boys know how to win this race. It's very hard to see who to go with here. It's like picking your favorite child nearly with this. Like, it's very tough.
For Energumene, it's his first time at Cheltenham. You spoke there. Would that be a worry for him?
Yeah, well, it's always a worry. I think it is a worry in the sense that, you know, Cheltenham is obviously it's the be all and end all. And as I said to you, like, Shishkin's form last year, that race is like, obviously he's a Supreme winner, which is a very, very good piece of form. And as I said, the only other horse in the last 14 years that has won this race and hasn't ran at Cheltenham before was under So that probably speaks good for Mullins. So obviously he knows how to prepare these horses for their first time at Cheltenham. So that's probably one positive thing you can look at. He won his novice chase before he went to Dublin Race Festival. He ran at Naas. We spoke about Naas already. It's a good uphill finish, which is like Cheltenham, so he'll be used to that sort of thing. Look, Willie knows how to get these guys ready. Obviously, he's champion trainer for a reason. He's champion trainer at this festival multiple times for a reason. He knows how to get these guys ready. It would be a worry, in my opinion, absolutely. And I think that this is a very, very high quality field. It's much better quality than what he raced against at the Dublin Race Festival. But I'm probably going to stay in his camp. I mean, it was in his camp after he beat that. I was so taken by that performance. I just thought that it was very impressive, and it would take something good to beat him. I know Shishkin is probably the thing that can beat him, but I think at 9-4, I'd rather back him at 9-4 than back Shishkin at 10-11. So I just, from a value perspective, it'd definitely be an Energumene for me now. Although All Mankind has said to you, I mean, you could just pick the 3 of these, like, and it could be a lottery between them.
Are you going with that, Dan? A Willie Mullins, Paul Townend double to start the festival?
Yeah, similar. Like, I'm to and fro on this race, to be honest with you. I'm sitting on the fence. Energumene's won his 3 chase starts by 36.5 lanes. Shishkin's won his 3 chase starts by 44.5 lanes. And then All Mankind has won his 3 chase starts by 30 lengths. So there you go, really. I think these courses are a class above anyone that they've come up against. which anyone else is going to take them on has probably come up against one of these horses before. And Ergamine jumps a little bit to his right, and in Leopardstown, like the fact he won that race, and you mentioned the time there, Brian, quicker than Shaq and Poursoir, or similar kind of lines, having jumped to his right. Now, it wasn't like as pronounced as it has been in the past, but it was still there, particularly down the back straight. I don't know if you get away with those mistakes in Cheltenham. Like, I'll give you an example. Last year, I was all over Notebook, and I was all over Notebook from an early anti-post perspective. So when you already have a bet in the race, you tend to be very biased in your analysis. I've learned over the years, and I refuse to listen to anyone who said Notebook jumps too much to his right, and he'll pay for it in Cheltenham. Now, there are other factors with Notebook's performance the Arkle last year in terms of getting wound up before the races, but jumping to the right definitely wasn't a help to him in Cheltenham. And I think you get away with it in Leopardstown a lot more than you do in Cheltenham. And this is an Arkle where you can't afford too many mistakes. So it would be a slight concern that Ergamine jumps to the right. But saying that, he is a far bigger price than Shishkin. I actually did think when he was 5-1 before the Dublin Racing Festival against the 10-11, and if I was having a bet at that time, I would have said an Ergamine is definitely a solid bet. They are a little bit closer in the market. Like, you look at how this race is going to set up. All Mankind's a front runner, and Ergamine's going to probably track All Mankind. It's set up probably for Shishkin to kind of pounce on that, or he'll have kind of first. He'll see everything in front of him. But I've kind of been down that road before where, like, I rule out front runners. If there's two front runners in a race, I'll rule them both out. And then I almost pay too much attention to the tactics and not the horses. So, yeah, I see, I'm kind of on the fence a little bit with this one. And Ergamine, like, his time is phenomenal, but he jumps to the right, and that is concerned. So I'd say on the day they'll get a little bit closer to the betting. Like, if Shishkin got out to a price, of odds against in towards that maybe 6-4 kind of price, I personally have Shishkin at the moment. You asked me on the day, I'll probably say something else, but I do think that Cheltenham form that he showed in the Supreme's working out okay with Abracadabra's going champion hurdle there. Not a bad prospect there. So I would probably side with Shishkin if they were a little bit closer to the betting. I'd say the prices at the moment probably are about right. I probably wouldn't fancy any of the three. I think Shishkin 10-11 is about fair, and Ergamine 5-2 is about fair. But on the day, if those prices change and Shishkin gets out to a backable price, which I think he will, because I think a lot of Irish Willie Mullins punters will lash on to an Ergamine. So, yeah, I'd probably side with Shishkin, to be honest with you, at the moment. Just the way the race is going to set up, and I do have a slight concern on an Ergamine's jumping to the right. Now, in saying all that, he jumped to the right and still produced that phenomenal at times. So there is a case that he could be a class above, but I just think the race sets up a little bit too well for Shishkin, and he'd be the one for me at the moment. And in terms of one at a price, like, I'm a fan of Franco Deport. I thought he was a bit underrated in his performance at Christmas. The race kind of fell apart a bit. They went off way too quick in front. If I was his owners, though, I'd step him up to the Marsh. And if they did set him up to the Marsh, I think he'd probably chase Envoy Allen home there. So, but if he did line up in this race, they are going to go a good gallop. I think he probably picks up the pieces and probably gets to third place, because usually when you've got three really good horses, it never tends to be the top three. There's always someone that picks up the places. Like if you're running in just a normal running race, basically, and you go off a lot slower than someone ahead of you, but you just kind of stay at the same pace and they go off too quick in front of you, they're eventually going to come back to you. So when the other two or whoever go ahead, you're going to pick up the pieces. And I think Franco Deport is possibly the one there. But Shishkin for me, I just think another favourite here comes in the Arkle. So.
And that's Franco Deport at a bigger price. Put the kettle on one at 16-1 last year. Do you see anyone at that sort of price, or do you think it's going to be the top three, one of them, Brian, or is there anyone there that at a bigger price you think, yeah, maybe?
Not really for me. I'd probably agree with Franco Deport as being a safe each way alternative. You could probably forgive his his Christmas form is like, it's probably a little bit better than what other outsiders have here. Like, I mean, before the Dublin Racing Festival, I would have given Darver Star a bit of a squeak in this, in saying that he could run on for a good run. Now, not saying that he could still recover from that run, but he was very bad at the Dublin Racing Festival. He jumped terribly. He never caught up with the gallop that was given in the race, and he was chasing it the whole way around. I mean, his third in last year's champion hurdle reads very well. I mean, it's very, very good form. He's 33-1. But that would have been me before the Dublin Race Festival. Now after, I'm kind of saying, I don't know, because I see that there was a lot more depth to the race there at Dublin Race Festival than there was when he ran at Christmas, and he was second behind Franco Deport. So, and I mean, before that, then he was third at Pudgestown behind Felix Desjardins. And I just think that you're reading into these forms. Like, Felix Desjardins hasn't been himself since that run either. And it's very tough to kind of make cases for a lot of these. If I was probably having a bet each way, like, maybe Blackbow ran to a bit of form the last day. He was very poor at Christmas, or very poor at Naas behind Energamy in January. Captain Guinness beat him by 19 lengths, which now obviously he kind of recovered from that well and ran well at the Dublin Racing Festival. He was no match for Energamy, but I mean he was just upsides Franco Deport at the line, so he recovered well. He has plenty of ability. He's a good jumper. That'd probably be my each way bet at 25-1. I said I was with Darver Star, but other than that, now I would be in the Blackbow camp. But I can't see anything else here making. I don't think Fussell Raffles will go for this race. He recovered very well from his flop at Cheltenham in November. And he ran there very well, and in December he beat Chantry House, who romped up the other day. So I mean the form reads quite well, but I think he'll go for something a bit longer. So I don't think he'll run in this race. I think he'll probably go to the Marsh and run behind Envoy Allen. But saying that, if he runs a 20-1, you could make a case for him as well if you wanted to, because he has good course form. But I'd be sticking to the head of the market now in this one. I think it's between these first three. I think it's a bit of a shootout here.
And just on Blackbow then, yeah, like he definitely has good form there. He definitely ran a lot better in Dublin Racing Festival. Is there talk that he may go up to the Marsh? I'm not too sure myself, because he hasn't ran over 2.5.
No, so it's I thought that as well, that he might step up a little, because it kind of looked that way at the Dublin Racing Festival, that the extra 4.5 furlongs would do him a bit of good. So it's hard to see whether he will. There's no real talk, I don't think, at the moment. I haven't seen anything anyway, but I mean it's I would sooner take his chance in this. I think just it's probably better for his own sake, really, as opposed to going and facing up against Envoy Allen, because he's just going to be chasing him home as well.
Yeah, well, that's the problem with the novice chase, is that you've nowhere to go. If you're not Monkfish, Shishkin, Energamy, or Envoy Allen, you're in massive trouble. But I was, as you were talking, I was just looking at Blackbow before you said it. He's 50-1 for both races. If you want to back some, at this stage you're looking at no runner, no bet. So you probably have to take the 33s or 40s, but. There's a small case there, because he probably ran his career best over fences there last time out. So maybe a step up in trip. Well, I don't know personally if it'll suit him in the Marsh potentially, but yeah, there are each way alternatives if you dig deep. But there's a reason these three are the head of the market anyways.